Shabbat Shalom. We come together. I promised an April Fool's service, a time of joy. Despite the hardships and some of the difficulties that we have been living through this week, this month, this year, we come to Shabbat for respite, for a time to balance all of our sorrows with our joys. And so we indeed celebrate together our great spring Shabbat HaChodesh, the Sabbath that brings in the month, which will bring us Passover, our time of spring and redemption, and the snow will surely end soon. And so we begin kindling. Actually, we don't, do we? Yeah, we're going to sing. We're going to sing a couple times before we welcome and light the candles of Shabbat.
That'll work. We'll start with
Boy Kala. And now that the Sabbath bride has arrived, Renee will greet her by kindling the Shabbat lights. Ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. And we rise together for our Baruch, our call to worship. Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? Can you hear my voice? Can you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared? vaed. La 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 la, la 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 la, ya 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 la 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 la. Eternal God, whose temple is the whole world and whose dwelling place is the human heart, we know that you are everywhere and that your presence never leaves us. Yet we are thankful for appointed times and chosen places where, in fellowship with one another, our spirits turn to you. At this service, at this hour, and in this place, help us to feel your nearness. The week of toil is ended, the day of rest has come, and we pause to reflect on the meaning of our lives. Source of all creation, you have given us the blessing of work so that by our efforts we may fashion things and use the moments of helpfulness. You have also given us Shabbat for the self-renewal and sanctification. May the work of our hands and our minds be acceptable to you. May this Shabbat enrich our lives, drawing us closer to you in truth and in love.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu,
Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Blessed is God's glorious majesty forever and ever. You may be seated. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levacha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol meodecha v'hayu hadibarim ha'eleh asher anoki mitzavacha hayam al levavecha Vishinatam levaneka vidibata bam vishifteka beveteka uvlefteka vaderet ushofbecha uvakumecha ukshatam leot ayedeka vehayula totafot beinenecha uktaptam Al mezuzot betecha uvisharecha lema'an tizkeru va'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'nitem kedoshim le'Elohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem Me'eretz Mitzrayim, lihiyot lachem le'Elohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem.
David's going to scream now. Thank you.
Compassion and trust, Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamidenu malkeinu l'chaim. Save us for the sake of your name. Shield us from patience and sorrow and pain. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamidenu malkeinu
And can there ever be too much music, right?
For me.
Rise together for the Amidah on page 4. Na 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 Adonai. Na 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 spatai tivta. Na 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 ufi yagi. Ufi yagi tenilateha. Ata Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzhak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibur v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot, Umevi Gula Livnei V'neihem, Leman Shemo B'Ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'Ezrat Sarah, Ata Gibur le'olam Adonai, Mechayei hakol atabrav lahoshia, Mechalkel chayim b'chesed, Mechayei hakol b'rachamim rabim, Somech noflim b'rofei cholim, Umatir asurim, Umakayeh memunato, Lishenei afar, Michamocha ba'al gevurot, Umido melach, Melech memihit umachayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atah lahachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh hakol. Atah kadosh, v'shimcha kadosh, u'kadoshim b'chol yom yehalalucha selah, Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el hakadosh. You are holy, your name is holy, and those who are holy praise you every day. Blessed are you, Adonai, the holy God. We are seated. We turn now to the prayer, Modim anachnu lach. We give thanks to God, for even in our times of travail and trouble, there are still so many things for which we are grateful.
Modim
music written by Mark Rossio. We believe in tomorrow. We believe that we have the power to make tomorrow different from today. We believe that poverty need not be permanent and that people need not learn war forever. We believe in people despite all that we know about them. We believe that there can still be a time of peace and a time of justice, a time of fellowship and a time of tranquility for all who live on earth. We believe that we can have a share in bringing that day closer by the way in which we live in the week to come. Even though the world may smile at our dreams, it does not matter. We still believe. Our prayer for peace, our eternal prayer, Shalom Rav. In the spirit of Thanksgiving, someone in our virtual congregation, Benji Klein, says, Shabbat Shalom, looking forward to being here with us together for Seder, and he thanks God for his improving health. So we pray for the improving health of everyone in our congregation who needs healing and wholeness with our Misha Berach prayer. If there's anyone, along with Benji, who you would like to mention for ongoing healing and wholeness, we can mention their names now. Madeline Annans, Dr. Steve Cohen, for them all and for all who we mention in our hearts and in our prayers, we say the words, Misha Berach, may the one who blessed our ancestors with healing and wholeness bless us as well. Also, Marty Robbins, who is Annie Self's father, who is ailing, and we pray for strength for his family and for him.
Help us find
to these, the set prayers of our liturgy, our own private prayers, and the meditations of our hearts.
This is the moment as time rolls by, for my silent prayer to Adonai. Prayer of thanks for all my blessings, prayer of compassion for all in need, a prayer of knowledge for I keep guessing, a prayer between God and me. Close your eyes, say a prayer. Adonai will be there. Prayer of thanks for all my blessings, prayer of compassion for all in need, a prayer of knowledge for I keep guessing, a prayer between God and me, prayer between God and me, prayer between God and me.
Am I supposed to hit that note? No. My turn. I'm speaking. That's it. You know, you always said be brief. So tomorrow, the Detroit Opera House will stage the first of 3 productions of La Boheme, but they're doing it in reverse order to avoid the sad ending where the main character dies. You all may know that the tragic Puccini opera La Boheme was written in the 1890s, and it depicted the difficult life of artists and writers and musicians in the poverty of 1830s in Paris. So the long story short, Rodolfo falls in love with the seamstress Mimi, whose tuberculosis is exacerbated by their impoverished conditions, and in the end, she tragically dies. So the opera, by the way, inspired Broadway's production of Rent in around 2000 and the 2001 movie Moulin Rouge. But Detroit, this opera house believes now that in our post-pandemic era, we need happier, hopeful endings. And so they're going to perform the opera backwards so that it has a happy ending and people will find it easier to cope with despair. Now, I promised an April Fool's joyful service, and that isn't an April Fool's, that actually is reality, and nor do I want to focus on despair. However, I believe that that isn't the Jewish way to turn life on its head, but instead to grapple with the pain that we have and also balance it with the joys that we have in the midst of despair. We have talked about it a million times. We talk about breaking a glass at a wedding and praising God with the mourner's Kaddish at a funeral. We wear magic rings which tell us, Gam ze ya'avor, this too will pass. And we are told that we should carry 2 stones in our pocket, one that reads, I am dust and ashes, and the other that says, I am little lower than the angels. Everything about our faith gives us resilience and gives us strength in the power of suffering, because it tells us not to avoid pain, not to ignore and pretend it goes away, but even in the times of our greatest illness and death and despair, we should still find 100 blessings to count every single day. In this mode, right before Purim, the influencer Michael Twitty, who is an African-American Jewish writer and culinary historian, wrote a most beautiful post on Twitter. He wrote, "Jewish, we aren't just traumas and issues, or, oh hell, what's up with them now? We are our joys and things that are happy and peaceful and satisfying and substantial." And he came up for himself with 50 joys of being Jewish, a thread. Now, some of these you might respond to, others might seem very different for you, and indeed, if you wrote your own thread about 50 joys of Judaism, it might help us in this time without denying the reality of what it is we have gone through. What are some of the daily joys which are gifts that imbue our lives with hope and joy in which temper our losses? To Michael Twitty, it's the smell of challah baking, warming on a Friday. It's the nod and smile when I wear a kippah from another brother in a kufi. It's getting a random ride when I'm standing in the rain. It's singing Debbie Friedman songs. Never mourning alone. The sound of Ladino. Moroccan Rosh Hashanah dinner. How bright the table looks on the 8th night of Hanukkah. The release of complaining. Crossword puzzles and word games that get grandfathered into your religion. The satisfaction of doing things for over 3,500 years. Tiffany Haddish as your fan. That's not all of us. The feeling you get when you dance with Torah scrolls on Simchas Torah. The way everybody cares to set you up. You're always seen as worthy of love and companionship. Wine drops in dentures and Haggadot. Sexy words like Zaftig. Your people invented the weekend. You don't have to be religious to belong. You argue and overlap when you talk, but it's love. You're supposed to ask questions. You always have something to do, commandments, good deeds, rituals, and traditions. Throwing candy at B'nai Mitzvah kids. You never run out of grandmothers. Hebrew script isn't that hard to read, less letters than English. The Torah is a song. Dancing is prayer. The custom of laughing at the end of Shabbat to bring joy into the next week. Purim drag. The first sip of hot matzo ball soup at the Seder. The obligation to learn, ask questions, debate, and reconsider one's positions. The beautiful way Hebrew script looks in the Torah and regional Jewish calligraphy. Knowing that Jewish doesn't look one way or another. The wisdom and passion for justice brought to Jewish life by Jewish women. There is room for queerness, not everywhere, but more. Comedy and humor aren't accidental, they are essential. Lamed Vavniks. Ramps, so that people who rely on wheelchairs can participate in services. Singing a nigun, a wordless melody with a large group. Agon posters. Anything Gilda Radner did. You are aware of the seasons in a vibrant way. Giving tzedakah, food drives, collecting socks, because justice. Not being afraid to walk away when you have to do what's right. Chicken. Afikoman goodies. The feeling you get from being warm from the talit in the winter. L'chadodi. Kosher grape juice tastes better. Building the sukkah and eating and singing in it. Feeding the fish during Tashlich. Those were his 50, but he says there's tons more. Henna before a wedding, Rebbe stories, praying for each other's healing, Kol Nidre, summer camp, a good Hebrew school teacher, brisket cook-off, Midrash. And by Midrash, your imagination is welcome. Oh yeah, and the commandment to strive for a mutually satisfying and respectful romantic life. That's not what he said. 100 blessings a day means you look for every single thing to appreciate about being alive every day. Also, the aroma of Havdalah spices. What a beautiful list, and we could all add 50 more to each of those things, and even in our saddest and most difficult times, if we can teach ourselves, and more importantly, our children, to look at the many gifts of Judaism, maybe we wouldn't be having the marketing problems that we have, and all of us would embrace this faith. Elie Wiesel said, "And yet," those are my two favorite words, applicable to every situation, be it happy or bleak. The sun is rising, and yet it will set. A night of anguish, and yet this too will pass. We don't have to turn truth and reality and art upside down to find the happy ending. We have to learn to live, as the Hebrew folk song says, Al Kol Elah. We have to learn to live with both the honey and the sting. That is the gift of Judaism, and that is why we are here. And so we conclude with my favorite Jewish verse, coming from the terrible and despicable story of Purim, where indeed there was death, there was destruction, and yet finally, La Yehudim Hayita Ora V'Simcha V'Sason Vikar, the Jews finally found light and gladness and joy and honor. Turn to the Aleinu prayer, which indeed is the day when for all the world there will be light and joy and honor. We rise together. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'atei kedula li'oseh b'reishis, shelo asanu k'goyei haratzot, v'lo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo samchelkenu kahen, v'gor aleinu k'kol hamonam, v'anachnu korim, u'mishtachavim In his weekly column this week, Rabbi David Wolpe wrote about the solidarity of grief. He said, I've also often been asked to join a minyan, a quorum of 10, but I am never asked to join so we can say Baruchu, a prayer which is only recited with a minyan, or so that we can do the full Amidah, also done only with 10 adults. It is invariably so someone can say Kaddish, the prayer for the dead. The obvious reason is to come to the aid of one who grieves. Saying Kaddish is usually a more urgent emotional need than other prayers. However, we might also see it as a tribute to the one who has died. When we join together for a minyan, we declare, even though we may not know this person, he or she was part of the Jewish people. Each loss is the loss to all. We gather to let the mourners know that we too mourn, not as individuals, but as Klal Yisrael, the people of Israel. We pray that the bereaved will be comforted among the mourners of Zion and Jerusalem. No one weeps alone. To rephrase the post, every Jew's death diminishes the Jewish people. Join a minyan, share in the solidarity of grief. And so we rise together for the Kaddish prayer. Speaking of balance, at the very moment that the Abraham Accords were brought to life with the Negev Summit, a sign of peace, also terrorist attacks murdered 11 victims. And so, for those who died this week, we remember them. Amir Khoury, an Arab Israeli, 32 years old. Rabbi Abishai Yechezkel, 29 years old. Rabbi Yaakov Shalom, 36. Dmitry Mitrik, a Ukrainian citizen, 31 years old. Victor Sorakofot, a Ukrainian citizen, 23 years old. Shirel Abukart, 19 years old. Dizan Falak, a Druze, 19 years old. Laura Yitzhak, 43 years old. Rabbi Moshe Karbitsky, 50 years old. Dorit Yachbaz, 49 years old. Menachem Yechezkel, 67 years old. All fell by terrorism. And on this Shabbat, we mark the yahrzeit, the anniversary of the passing of Rabbi Michael Cook, Joy Eby, Sarah Lauber, Vernona Roberts, Julia Stein, Jackie Stone, Charlotte Steinharder, Celia Malvine Feinstein, Catherine Wolfman-Naiman, Lillian Adler, David Flegel, Irving Fink, Gertrude Phillips, and we mark as well the sadness of the recent passing of Joyce Spritzer, Eva Eisenson, and Lois Rubens. Even as we mourn their passing, we always turn to life. We always thank God for the life that we had with those our beloved, and thus we say the Kaddish prayer. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shamei rabbah, v'alma divrach kirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon u'vyomechon u'v'chayei v'chol beit Yisrael, v'adala u'vizman hariv imru, amen. Yehei shamei rabbah mevarach le'olam u'olmei almaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitkoar v'yitroman v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal shemei v'kedusha v'richu, la'ela min kol birkata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechamata, v'amiran v'alma v'imru, amen. Yehei shalom rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Osei shalom b'bramav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. May the one who causes peace to reign in the high heavens, let peace descend on us, on all of Israel, on all of the world, as we say, amen. And we are seated. Normally we would go right into our closing song, but just to keep everybody apprised of those things that are up and coming that you may have missed in your Planet E-blasts, we are having Shabbat HaChodesh. We are having a live Seder here at Temple Beth Or on Saturday, April 17th, and order on 16th? Saturday night, the second Seder. 6. Yeah. Check it out. Check me out. Check me out. We have a wonderful, Marty can tell us more about it, but we have a wonderful catered meal that will be happening here. And if we will also be streaming it, so if individuals would choose not to come to our live Seder, we will have it streaming because Rabbi Adro will be here, so you know there won't be mess-ups with the streaming, as sometimes happens with me. So we will be able to order a meal in advance and pick it up on Saturday morning and enjoy a streaming Seder with a Seder meal provided by Bernstein's, or on Saturday night at 6:30, come join us. We will have our live Seder just like the old days. 16th is Saturday. Okay. Saturday night, second Seder, not the first Seder. We hope that you'll all be here. RSVPs and things can be done online. It is in your planet. There are links in our newsletter, or you can call the temple office if you need any help getting that ready. Is there anything else they need to know? Dr. Jacobs? Okay. Come on the 15th, stay till the 16th through the 17th. It's a walled city. You can stay and eat all the leftovers. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, we wish our congregation out in the world Shabbat Shalom and one another as well. And we pray for peace, much needed peace this April, this Nisan, this Ramadan.
Oh, say shalom Yisrael. Hallelujah, say shalom Aleinu. Hey, Amo Yisrael. Hey, Amo Yisrael. Amen. Oh, say shalom Yisrael. Hallelujah, say shalom Aleinu. Hey, Amo Yisrael. Hey, Amo Yisrael. Amen.
Shabbat Shalom.